Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's doing good out there today, and thanks for tuning back in. Much appreciated. And I'm heading down to Table Rock Lake right now. I got a on the water lesson today down there. It's the last day of the big Bass Pro Shop $1 million tournament down there, so I'll try to stay out of everybody's way. I wouldn't want to interfere with somebody winning $1 million down there. But today's topic I want to talk about, it has to do a lot with the way the weather is today here in Southwest Missouri, down at Table Rock Lake, and that's the basically cold water, rain, rain, and today rain, and sometimes snow. How rain and snow affects bass in colder water this time of year, basically from the November to February time frame. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but real quick, just wanted to remind everybody, if you guys hadn't had a chance to go over to fishthemoment.com to check out our lake map breakdowns, and invite you to do that. Got myself, Johnny, now we got Matt Steffen building maps for fishthemoment.com. We got lake map breakdowns all 4 seasons, getting winter maps put out right now. They're really cool, so if you guys are interested in that, you can check them out at fishthemoment.com. Okay, today I want to do this video because I've got a 70% chance of rain today. It's coming up towards the end of November. Water temperatures are dropping, and I want to talk a little bit about how rain and snow affects bass personality, really, when the water's cold and it's rainy and snowy. A lot of it has to do, everybody knows when it rains, a lot of times the bass get a little bit more active when the water's warmer. But what happens in the cold water when they do that? So a lot of this, we're going to start out from the foundation and work up. The most important thing that you have to remember as far as how the rain or snow affects bass in cold water is the water clarity. That has a big impact on how it's either going to help you or hurt you. Generally, from what you have, is the clearer the water, the more that rain and snow is going to help you as far as turn those fish on. And the dirtier the water gets, the more that acts as a negative to catching any type of fish, when it's cold and rainy and snowy. Excuse me. One of the things that I found in my fishing, and you hear a lot, it's sort of I guess it's not a myth, but because it's true, but it's sort of the reality of the situation is, if you've got snow in the winter time of the year, particularly if it's like the first couple snows of the year, that almost always activates the bass. I've had a chance to fish all over the country, like in November and December, and if you get one of those days out there where you got a pretty bad cold front come through, where it's dropping the temperatures and it's starting to snow, especially after the water or before the water has gotten real cold, that can be some of the best fishing I've ever seen. Again, if you have the right water clarity. The water clarities I'm talking about to capitalize on snow and rain when it's colder is generally at least 2.5 to 3 feet. I prefer like that 3 to 6 foot visibility in the wintertime on the nasty days like we have here right now. It's starting to rain right now even. Normally what happens on that is that bass are sight feeders a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but most of the time. If they can feed by sight, that's their primary, most effective way to get prey. I mean, they can do it with their lateral lines and sensing vibration, but for the most part, they're sight feeders. And anytime you have a clear water environment, it increases those bass's ability to see a lure. But what happens is, a lot of times, even if the water's clear, and if you have a bright day like it's sunny or something like that, even though the bass can see, they're a little bit wary. They're not stupid. They didn't survive here on this planet for millions of years by being dumb. So they're going to be very cautious about what and how they attack prey, even if they can see it on bright days. Now, what happens is, if you have a day like today where it's cloudy, rain forecasted, it's not supposed to be snowing today, but it's supposed to be in the 50s and rainy, it basically decreases the light level penetration into the water, and for whatever reason, it makes the bass feel and act more aggressive in that clear water, and they chase baits more. So if you've got a situation like today at Table Rock Lake, where you got water temperatures in the 50s, and you've got rain and low light conditions, normally that really activates the bass in shallow water. When I'm talking about Shallow water, I'm talking about less than 5 feet. In the late winter, or excuse me, the late fall time, early winter like you have right now, if you've got water temperatures anywhere between, 50 to 60 degrees, which it is in a lot of parts of the country right now, you're going to have about half the bass, deeper and half a bass shallower. And the deeper bass are not as affected by the snow and the rain and the cold water as the shallow bass are. The shallow bass are really affected as far as their moods, with a combination of the low light conditions and any type of wind. Wind is not really that big of a factor. I prefer days that don't have much wind in the wintertime, anytime, but really I prefer that if it's cloudy or snowy out there, because that's all you need. You don't really need that additional wind to activate the fish or make them feel a little bit more comfortable to bite. A lot of times if I'm dealing with, man, there's a big deer that just crossed the road in front of me. Wow, it's a big buck. But anyway, if I'm fishing a lake that has dirty water in it, like 6 inches to 12 inches of visibility, a lot of times when it's raining and cloudy this time of year, they can really toughen things up. So that's the basic personality of the fish. Now, what do you need to do to take advantage to catch them? And I'll start in the not so great situation. If you are fishing one of those bodies of water that's off colored, like 6 inches to 2 foot of visibility, and it's raining or it's snowing, the number one lure by far is a big spinnerbait. A big spinnerbait, slow rolled against any shallow cover, bare banks, it can be rocky banks, it can be sandy banks, gravel banks like that. That's the best way to catch them in that situation. I like like a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with like a number 7 Colorado blade on it, something like that really thumps good, or a bigger willow leaf, maybe like a number 6 or number 7 willow leaf. That's a really good way to catch them in those situations. Sometimes you can still catch them on a square bill crankbait, like a big 3-inch square bill crankbait, fish at a medium slow speed retrieve, and a jig. So those would be my 3 primary, like a dark jig, something like that, a full-size dark jig. So a jig, square bill crankbait, big spinnerbait. Now, if you're fishing like I'm here at Table Rock today, where the part of Table Rock I'm going to today we're probably going to have, I'm going to guess, about 4 foot of visibility. Spinnerbait is still the dominant bait under these conditions here, but I'll downsize my spinnerbait a little bit more. Like today, I've got 3/8 ounce spinnerbait tied on with some smaller willow leaf blades. I'm probably going to fish them a little bit faster, a little bit shallower than I would if the water was dirty. I expect to have a good day of fishing today, with the conditions we have. That could be really good. If the water temperature is still in the mid-50s like it is right now, one of the best baits in the snow and the rain you can have is a buzzbait. 1/2 ounce buzzbait, basically just fished around any shallow cover, rocky banks, with a very slow retrieve. I like to use like 25-pound test line, throw that buzzbait right up on the bank, and I expect to get bit within the first foot or 2 off of the bank. That can work really, really good too. Third bait that works really good in this situation is a jerk bait. If it's snowing and raining, water temperatures are in the 50s, you can't beat just the Mega Bass Vision 110 fishing it shallower. And I'm not fishing it like out off the deeper points for suspended fish. I'm basically going down the bank and throwing to the bank with the bait, expecting to catch those fish in 2 to 3 feet of water in that situation. But primarily, I guess what I'm saying here, guys, in the cold water months, as long as that water temperature is above 50, dirty water and clear water, some type of a spinnerbait is going to be your number one, situation, your number one bait to catch them on. Now, let's talk a little bit about if it's colder than that. Say we get into December and the water temperatures are down into the 40s, anywhere between 40 to 50 degrees. That creates a completely different personality for the bass in both dirty and stained water. First thing it does, it'll take away your buzzbait bite. You might as well put that buzzer down. If that water temperature gets below 50 degrees, it's going to be really hard to catch them in the rain and the snow on a buzzer. So I put that away. The next bait that is going to be my second bait, second favorite bait to throw, is going to be the big spinnerbait again. But the big spinnerbait is going to be very situational because it's only going to work if those water temperatures are pushing 50 degrees, close to 50 degrees. So there's a real small window for that to work. By far, the number one and the number, or the best two lures are sort of tied at the top based upon your water clarity again, would be the jig and the jerkbait. The jig becomes the number one bait to throw in rain and wind in clear water or dirty water, if the water temperatures are in the 40s, that type of thing. I found that a lot of times those bass, when the water is colder and the water you have a lot of low light conditions, a lot of times those bass will really suck down on the bottom, and they tend to feed more on crawdads, and that's why the jig works better. So, and when I'm talking about fishing the jig, I'm not talking about fishing it deep or anything. I'm talking about just going down the bank with it, pitching and flipping the jig to bare rock, bare, lay downs, docks, whatever like that. But it's hard to beat a jig in the rain and the snow if that water temperature is below 50 degrees. The other bait that's going to work really good in that is based upon your water clarity again. If you have extremely clear water, like water visibility of over 5 feet, like the 5 to 15 foot of visibility, when it's raining hard or snowing like that, one of my favorite baits is a bright colored jerkbait. Some type of like a chartreuse or some type of a white or pearl, something that really glows and stands out a lot in the water. And if you've got those days where it's raining or snowing in clear water situation, that bright glowing type jerkbait will really draw those fish, not only off the bottom, but if there's any fish suspended, which there's not usually as many suspended under those conditions as there would be on the bottom, but it'll pull those fish off the bottom, and from a great distance away if you have that real clear water. So anyway, guys, that's just an overview of the things that I look for when it's snowing and raining. Like I said, if your water temperatures are between 50 to 60 degrees and it's rainy, snowy in the winter time of the year, expect to catch them, because normally it activates the fish quite a bit. I've seen very few situations where you got the combination of rain or snow and water temperatures in the 50s where there wasn't a decent bite on the lake. Like I said, it's hard to go wrong with the spinnerbait, jig, and a jerkbait under those conditions. And I guess the biggest advice that I would give to you guys under these, if you have that set of conditions, is just try to look for the clearest water in the lake and try to look for rock. Clear water and rock is really good, for these conditions. And also the major creeks. It's like you can catch some fish on the main lake, but early in the winter like this, I prefer staying in the major creek arms, and again concentrating on that rock banks, gravelly rock banks with those three baits. So anyway, guys, I'll let you know how it goes today down here. Somebody's going to be really happy down here today. Somebody's going to win $1 million in this tournament. Table Rock has been getting absolutely hammered and pounded. Fishing's been tough down here. I think it only took something like 4 or 5 pounds, 4 pounds maybe, to make the cut down here after the first day at the Bass Pro deal. So fishing's pretty much sucky down at Table Rock right now. I think 16 pounds was leading after the first day, which I didn't see yesterday, but I know 16 the first day, which that's about what I expected. And I'll let you guys know how I do down here today, and we'll check in later. See you.